Hi, and welcome to MC Podcast, episode number 17. Today in studio, my co-host is Master's Choice CEO Kevin Koone. Kevin, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mark.
So give us a little quick update on things going on here at MC, just kind of, what you're seeing, what's going on, just how things are progressing.
So everything's going really well. We from an R&D side, which is where I've largely been focused here lately, we finally have all the corn in the ground. So we've been running around, made a trip to Wisconsin last week to get a plot in that we've made 3 trips up there to finally get a dry enough week to plant it, but that is all done. We are working towards the upcoming selling season and dealer training coming up this fall.
Okay.
So lots and lots of work going into prep for summer training.
Good. No, I think from my perspective and other people's, I think things are going really well here at MC. We're up in sales this year. We've had a nice little sales growth, and so we're looking forward to seeing what's coming. So anyway, so you're here today, and we are going to talk about the organic market.
Great.
Kind of MC's position in organics, kind of the differences between organic and conventional farming, and then organic and non-GMO that I think sometimes get all lumped together there. So as you've taken kind of the reins here at the company and been out and about and seeing, what kind of trends are you seeing in the organic market?
It's kind of interesting. We're seeing the organic market grow pretty considerably. And when we look at it from Master's Choice perspective, every year our organic units are climbing. We're still trying to find where the ceiling is on some of that stuff.
Sure.
We made a big expansion here in the last couple of years to our lineup. Basically, we're able to offer a wider selection and relative maturity and genetic options than we ever have been able to. And this year, with the exception of a couple of hybrids, we pretty much sold out of everything in the first couple of months of sales. So we're still trying to find where the saturation point is at for some of that. Went back with even heavier for production this year, so growing more organic seed than we ever have.
Yeah.
The organic marketplace as a whole is also growing. I'm not sure if it's growing at the same pace we are or not. I've been having trouble getting a good read on that. We're seeing in the media, we're seeing a lot of other markets grow. The non-GMO verified push has really really taken a lot of steam, and it's going to be interesting as things progress to see how the two of those kind of compete for some of the same market share.
Yeah, and we talked. I don't remember if it was you and I, but maybe it was Scott and I that were talking a few weeks back about the study out of University of Illinois that ranked kind of the top 7 or 8 labels that people want to see and what people thought was important. And what was really interesting is at the bottom of that, certified organic was actually number 7, behind, non-GMO, no antibiotics, no growth hormones. But I would agree with you. I think that market is growing, and from all indications is, in 2016 there were like 4.1 million acres in the U.S. that were certified organic. But I would say this: it's kind of hard to get a read on where what those acres represent. Do they represent pasture land and hay? Do they represent corn silage, and those kinds of things?
Right. Yeah, and that's absolutely the case. And we see that non-GMO label really trending very strongly. And as a result, in the average consumer's mind, that organic term has kind of slipped behind, I think, a little bit. But I think that I think what we're going to see happening at a consumer level is I think you'll start to see the organic integrators taking advantage of some of what's going on with non-GMO market, and they'll start utilizing some of the same terminology, putting some of those same labels on there.
Yeah.
Because the simple fact of it is most consumers don't understand the difference between conventional, organic, and non-GMO, and that there are totally different systems there and different products.
Okay, so let's get into that just for a little bit.
Yeah.
What are the differences between between organic and I kind of think about it in this progression: organic, non-GMO, and then what we would call conventional farming. So, what are some of the major differences in those arenas?
Okay, so let's kind of start on the opposite end of the
Okay.
spectrum, and we'll back into organics.
Sure.
So if we talk about a conventional farming system, in a conventional farming system, an operation is able to use, just talking agronomically here, we're able to utilize common herbicides, fungicides, pesticides, any of those normal things. Here in Southern Illinois, there are no organic acres. All these row crop guys that we see, they can use genetically modified traits. Any of those industry leading type resources are basically available to what we would call a conventional farmer.
And they represent a majority of what we see as farmers today, correct?
Absolutely. That's the majority of the acres in the United States are under conventional farming practices, and most of those are utilizing GMO traits in those as well.
Okay. All right. So that's kind of the snapshot of the conventional. Now, what about the non-GMO?
All right. Now, when we step into the non-GMO realm, so basically, the only thing that changed, if we're talking non-GMO, is the fact that the seed that I put into my operation has to be non-GMO seed. Now, I can still use chemicals. I can still use, whether that be herbicides or fungicides. Now, if I'm using a non-GMO corn, that corn or soybean or whatever it is not going to have a herbicide trait integrated into it. So I'm going to have to use products that are approved for non-GMO corn, non-GMO soybeans. But most of the guys who are under a conventional system that are using GMOs are using the same chemicals. They're just also utilizing a glyphosate or glufosinate as a broad spectrum herbicide to clean the fields up. So basically there is no major difference in the system between conventional and non-GMO, other than the fact that the non-GMO guys required to use non-GMO seed.
Non-GMO seed, and so in fact, I think that sometimes there's a misconception that non-GMO people don't use Roundup. Well, that's not the truth,
Sure.
or glyphosate. They still use that. They can still use it. They spray it on their field as a burn down. They just can't spray it on those plants that they have planted.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and glyphosate is still a part of most everybody's burn down practice.
Yep.
It's an affordable broad spectrum herbicide they can go out there with and get a good cleanup, a good fresh start before they go into the field. And that's really critical for guys that are growing non-GMO crops, to start with a clean field. If we're going to be able to control the weeds throughout the growing season, we got to get a jump on them early.
And weed control in beans is probably more critical, more important, and more of a hassle with non-GMO beans than it is with non-GMO corn.
Absolutely. With corn, you have the luxury of, knowing that I've only really got to control those weeds for the first few weeks. Then that corn is going to come on and it's going to basically shade out the rows. And sunlight is going to be so limited that as long as I keep my weeds held back until that row shading takes place, I'm pretty much clean throughout the rest of the season. Now with beans, I've got sunlight getting to the ground all through the growing season, so I really have to stay on top of it.
Okay, so with what we would label conventional farming, it's GM seed, it's pesticides, herbicides, all kinds of fungicides. They can do that. They harvest it with combines. It's all taken care of. With non-GMO, same farming practice.
Correct.
Okay, all we're doing is changing some of the chemicals, and then the seed is non-GMO, not genetically modified.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So really the systems look very much so the same. It's basically chemical type and timing. Now with organic, we're talking kind of a whole different little ballgame there.
Yeah, so this is where things change totally. And, as we talked about, so in the eyes of the consumer, when I walk down the grocery store aisle, I see non-GMO, I see organic. A lot of consumers think, oh, well, these are grown in the same manner, and they're totally different.
Yeah.
So an organic system doesn't utilize any of those seed treatments, any of those herbicides, any of those chemicals whatsoever. So any product going into an organic system has to be a certified organic product.
Okay.
USDA has very strict guidelines on what products can be approved. And those are all going to be naturally based products.
Okay.
So basically what that does is, if I'm an organic producer, that really limits what my inputs can be. There are a lot of good sources of organic products out there, but I have to completely shift my mindset. My management has to be completely different. We talked about, for example, we got into non-GMO beans there for a minute and talked about, I really got to stay ahead of it. Well, if I'm on an organic system, I don't have any herbicides at all. So,
Yeah.
I control weeds with cultivation, with crop rotations, things like that. So my management has to be, if I'm going to grow good, high yielding, quality organic products, my management has to be perfect.
Intensive.
Yes, very much. So it's much more labor intensive than what we're doing with the conventional or non-GMO system. And that is why when we see organic products on the store shelves, we usually see a higher price tag,
Right.
because there is a lot more labor that goes into producing those crops, whether it's cultivation or whatever it is. I don't have the luxury of going out and spraying a herbicide and then coming back and no-tilling and making one pass across the field. It's
Right.
multiple passes across the field to even get the field prepped, get started planting, and then as soon as the crop's up, I'm coming back and I'm cultivating again to make sure that the weeds don't get ahead of me.
Yeah, exactly. And the fertilizers are different. We
Right.
didn't even talk about fertilizers for non-GMO and conventional, but they can utilize synthetic type fertilizers, whereas the organic guy has to utilize a natural type fertilizer.
Right, and there are a lot of options there. We see, especially a lot of Master's Choice growers, we're utilizing a lot of composted manure.
Okay.
So a lot of waste coming out of either a dairy barn or out of a pig barn or even poultry barn. So we get a lot of NP and K coming from some of those sources. A lot of the commercial organic fertilizers you see out there will be based on a fish-based fertilizer.
Right.
So that's fish is one of the best sources for nitrogen that you can utilize that's certified organic. But there are a number of sources out there, but you got to think totally outside the box compared to conventional farming.
So we saw these record number of acres in 2016. There's almost like 15,000 certified organic farms in the U.S. So also, as I was reading, it was kind of interesting that we deal a lot in the dairy market and livestock. And so when I think a lot about organic and non-GMO, I think a lot about New York, Vermont, Pennsylvania, those kinds of areas. But really, statistics show us that the top 5 organic states are like California, Montana, Wisconsin, of course, New York, but North Dakota. And so it's just really kind of interesting to me that there we have this kind of we have a lot of Western, one Midwest, and an Eastern type or Eastern states that are that are the top 5 or organic and cropland. And I would assume, okay, this is just me assuming, that for California it would probably be a lot of the vegetables.
Right, I think you're correct. Because when we look at dairy farms, most of the large dairy farms that we have the opportunity to work with in California, they're all on conventional systems.
Yeah.
So I think you're right there, and that just goes to show you, when you look at that broad geographical spread, it shows that organic is not just limited to beef and dairy production and things that we really think about here at Master's Choice, but it's everything. It's produce, it's your fruit. You're talking about what's going on in Montana. I'd be willing to bet there's some pasture cattle involved in some of that. So you
Yep.
you can get organic certification on pasture ground, and then you move into some organic grass fed operations. So there are all types of organic operations out there. And that stems from just demand for variety of organic products on the shelves.
So do you think that just kind of your opinion? So this is opinion, no facts, or won't well, I'll hold you to it. I don't know about our listeners, but anyway, do you think that organic is a fad, or do you think it's here to stay?
I really think that organic is going to stick around. The only thing that we have seen kind of threaten some of that market share is this non-GMO push. And I think the biggest reason in the long run that we will see it threaten organic markets is because I can produce non-GMO products so much cheaper than I can organics because we talked about the difference in the systems.
Yeah.
Now, the important thing for consumers is for consumers need to decide what is important to them. Is it important for me to buy products that are not grown with pesticides, with herbicides? Is that important to me, or is it just the fact that there are GMO seeds used in the process?
Right.
That really, so much of what's going on in the ag industry is hinging on what is this consumer opinion going to be, and how are consumers going to make their decisions. And until somebody comes along that is able to educate on both ends of the spectrum, from the growers all the way out to the consumers, we're going to have a hard time telling where this marketplace is going to go. So we're going to see things fluctuate, but I really think organics are here to stay.
Yep.
When living in kind of the southern part of the Midwest, we don't have the opportunity to see a lot of organic operations here. But working with Master's Choice, like you said, going into Wisconsin, New York, some of those places, we see some incredible organic operations. And so much of the mindset out there for a lot of guys is that, well, if I'm growing organics, I'm going to have to sacrifice yield. I'm going to have to sacrifice quality. Some of the best yielding and best feeding corn silage and even grain corn that we see around the country comes off of organic operations.
Right. And so that kind of alludes to this question. As looking at these things nutritionally, a lot of people ask me, do you see any difference of them? Well, no, I don't. I don't really see any difference. What I do see is that a guy who is a good conventional farmer, who is working with soil health, who is taking care of things and managing things well, has really good, high quality, great feeding corn silage. The same way with the organic guy. The organic guy who is really taking care of things and really managing things well. He has the same yield and excellent quality. But the same is true also, the conventional guy who has all of the herbicides and pesticides and in the latest GM seeds and all of those things. If he is a poor manager and doesn't time his harvest right and doesn't do these things, poor quality corn silage.
Right.
Same way with the organic guy who doesn't take care of things, who lets the weeds get ahead of him, who poor quality corn silage. So there's, to me, there is. I have seen great yields, great quality off organic, but I've also seen great yields, great quality off of a conventional farm where I really don't see, when I'm looking at feed samples, there's really no difference there. And so as we talk about that and kind of through that, where does Master's Choice, where do we sit in that organic marketplace, and kind of where are we in that?
So if we're looking at where Master's Choice is at in the mix, I don't know how many units of certified organic seed corn there are out there in the marketplace, but I got to believe that we are one of the top 2 or 3 players out there.
Right.
I think Blue River is probably the biggest company across the board for organics, but we run pretty close, I think, to them in organic market share. And like I said, that kind of keeps growing exponentially. Those numbers are increasing very rapidly.
So as far as Master's Choice is concerned, kind of where we play in that market, kind of where do we sit? Where are our sales at for organic and non-GMO?
So when we look at our total breakdown, I think probably close to 70% of the seed we sell falls under that big umbrella of non-GMO and organic.
Okay.
Probably 10 to 15% probably is certified organic. And we've got options even in between. There's some seed in there that's non-GMO that basically goes out without seed treatment on it, or gets our MicroMaster or certified organic on there. So,
right.
the vast majority of the seed going out in a Master's Choice bag is going to be without GM traits.
Without GM traits, and just to kind of reiterate, it's hard to get a handle on all these numbers, but from all indication, we're at a pretty good place in the market as far as number 2, number 3.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we're one of the, like I say, I think we're one of the top 2 or 3 players for certified organic seed corn in the industry.
So let's think about. So I want you to explain. Coming from R&D, coming from kind of the CEO role, and just kind of a big picture here. When we talk about organic seed or organic seed production, this is seed. The seed that is in an organic bag has been produced organically. What are the challenges with that?
So that's correct, and that's why we see, we look at a price sheet, we see differences in price between GM products, and we also see big difference in price between a non-GMO and a certified organic, and that's because we talked about there being a totally different system between conventional farming and organic. And, the same goes for seed production. So what happens is we utilize untreated seed stock,
okay.
And that seed stock will go into seed corn production that is certified organic ground. So the same type of certification that any of these end users will be using on their farms, same thing goes on those seed acres. And when we're talking about seed corn production, there are a lot of unique challenges that come with growing seed corn versus a standard corn crop. Yields are much lower than what we see out of traditional corn when we're talking about corn inbreds. So the cost per acre is already higher when we're looking at seed corn production. Then you add onto that the additional labor, the additional expense that goes into producing an organic crop. So yeah, there's a significantly more cost and increased labor that goes into producing certified organic seed.
So we talked about that. Here are these conventional farms. They have all the herbicides, pesticides. They have everything at their disposal. The organic guy is more intense, and he doesn't get to use all of those things, and still has to manage his crop to where he can get a yield. And so in seed production, that's even kind of more elevated.
Right.
You've got weaker parent plants. You call them inbreds, weaker parent plants, and you've got to keep the weeds out of them. You got to keep the bugs out of them. And they're going to yield less anyway. A seed field's not going to yield as much as Farmer Brown's field where he puts out a hybrid. And so those things are tough in themselves. And then being able to find guys who will grow organic, a farm that is certified organic that will grow seed.
Right, because let's be honest, if I'm a farm owner and I have certified organic acres, I got a lot of options.
Yeah.
I can grow a lot of different certified organic crops. So I'm going to go after which one's going to be the most profitable for me. And then you add on to that, you have multiple seed companies that are vying for these limited number of growers out there. So the price gets up there on some of the organic products.
Yeah, and for kind of a myriad of reasons. So we talked a little bit about this organic market. We talked kind of about where Master's Choice lies in there. Do we have a non-GMO organic stance, so to speak?
So for us, for a stance, when we talk about GM traits, that's a big buzz in the industry, and a big buzz with consumers. And we service, our goal is to service livestock producers, and we want to give them the best possible products. And you talked earlier about how we see great quality feed from conventional guys using GM traits, conventional guys using non-GMO seed, and then from organic. We want to be able to offer the best products for all of those growers. And, we see the GM trait as a tool for the toolbox. There are some locations and some operations that feel like they have got to have that GM trait to be able to make enough feed to feed their livestock, and we want to be able to provide that for them. And then we have guys, on the flip side of that, in an organic operation, that know that they can grow a good quality crop, certified organic, and on top of that, cash in on a premium.
Sure.
And we want to be able to fill that need as well.
Yep.
You know, so the GM traits are there in the lineup for growers who feel like they need them. But you know, Master's Choice lineup is not going to be like the industry standard, where the elite genetics are going to be only featured with traits. They're going to be only, you know, when you open our hybrid guide, most of our cornerstone hybrids are available in multiple options, from certified organic to non-GMO. You know, even some of them up to easy refuge.
Yep.
You know, and that's really our goal, is to have the best genetic lines we can offer, and then basically get those leading genetics on as many farms as we can come up with. And you know, Mark, you do a lot of the help us with a lot of genetic selection on the nutrition side. You know, so really that's the goal, is, you know, we want to draw a circle around, these are the best genetics that we can possibly produce.
Definitely.
And now let's figure out, how do we get these on all these operations?
On all these different operations who are going to need different things.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think what I hear you saying is that we are not anti-GMO, you know, GMO. We are not pro organic, or even the other way around. You know, we just want to provide the best seed for the guys who need it.
Right. We are seed corn people, and we are livestock people.
Yes.
You know,
exactly.
and we want to provide the best products for our customers.
Absolutely. That's exactly. So if a guy, so let's say the guy says, you know, I mean, whether it's one of those things where it's a conviction that he thinks, oh wow, you know, I need to go organic, or whether it is, you know, man, you know, corn is $3 a bushel, conventional corn is $3 a bushel, and milk is 15. If I could go to organic, I could make this a little bit more profitable. What kind of steps does he need to take to be able to get to become an organic operation?
So the first step that you're going to have to take, if you want to convert your acreage over to certified organic, you know, first of all, there's a 3-year window prior to being certified organic that you cannot utilize any products that are not certified organic. So, you know, we talked before, that's, you know, herbicides, pesticides, seed treatments, fertility, any of that stuff that's synthetic, that is not certified organic, cannot be used on those acres for 3 years.
Okay. So it's kind of a transition period.
It is. It's a 3-year transition period. And, you know, right out of the gate, you're going to need to get with USDA, basically runs the organic programs in the U.S., and you're going to need to basically get with your local certifier.
Okay. Now
that certifier is going to be your best ally, your best friend, and it's important that you select the certifier that you want to continue to work with.
Okay.
Those certifiers are going to work with you year in and year out to help you get your crop certified, to make sure that you're doing everything up to par, to ensure that all that work that you're putting into your operation is going to keep you in that certified organic program.
Okay.
Because if I'm an organic operation and I do this for 4 or 5 years, and all of a sudden we make a mistake and we utilize something that is not certified organic, if we're not careful, we can get ourselves kicked out of the organic program, and then it's another 3-year cycle to get back in. So, you know, make sure that you select the certifier and certifying agency that has your best interest in mind, that wants to work closely with you. They're going to be your best ally.
Good. And so they find this certifier, they do that, they start this transition period, and then this certifier just doesn't show up and say, oh, okay, you want to go organic? That sounds great. Let's let you do that. I mean, there's inspections involved.
Right.
There is an application process involved. I mean, it's a pretty tedious kind of thing, right?
Right. There is. And you know, that's going to require that you keep track of your paperwork. You know, what seed did you buy? You know, was that certified organic seed? What fertility are you using? Is that certified organic? You know, so record keeping becomes increasingly important when you go to an organic system. But you know, that's going to be part of that certifier's routine. We go through the same thing in seed corn production. You know, even with our conditioning facility, where we work with an organic certifying agency, they come in annually, do an inspection, check our paperwork, look at the units coming in, going out. Look at, you know, we've got a certified organic seed treatment. They work closely with us, making sure that everything's up to par there. You know, so So a lot of the same steps that we're going through are the same steps that growers are
Right.
going through, because it all falls under those same USDA guidelines.
Yep. And so we have to have that so that the guy who is going organic can come back, can give that paperwork to his certifier and say, okay, I got somebody certified this seed. There was an agency that certified this seed, and now I got it. And there's a paper trail all the way through that, from our grower to us to processing to the farmer. Even to the distributor and all of that. There's all kinds of things that have to do with that. So, um, you know, Kevin, I know that you've been working really hard with the non-GMO verified stuff, and we talked that you got conventional farming, you've got non-GMO farming, and those systems are very much so the same. But the organic system is completely different. So just talk with us just for a minute about the process that we have to go through to make sure that even for the organic guy that seed is non-GMO, right? So we can, we think about organics as a system, okay, that is that, but when you're talking about non-GMO seed, that's not a system. That's a whole nother kind of little process there.
Right. So when we talk about non-GMO, and the term non-GMO kind of gets used in some different contexts. Okay. So non-GMO can mean just the fact that no GM products were used in the production of the seed. Okay. So when we produce a non-GMO crop, that just means that we took two parents out there that had never had traits integrated in them. They were just the straight genetic lines, and we went out there and we made a cross. Now, with what's going on now with the non-GMO verified project and that kind of non-GMO movement, is that there are now some standards being placed for some of those growers on how much genetically modified contamination is allowed in those units.
Okay.
And we talked before how almost, probably 90% of the acres in the country right now are using some kind of a GM trait. Well, with all that GM material out there, there's a lot of GM corn pollen flying in the air during the summer in the Midwest. So what happens is there is very little production out there that is completely GM pure. It's almost unheard of in the seed corn industry to have something that is on a PCR test will give you all zeros.
Now, PCR test is
just a DNA test that allows us to check for the presence of any GMO traits in the seed.
Okay.
So the standard right now that Non-GMO Verified Project has out there is that anything for animal livestock feed, any of that seed has to be below a 0.9% contamination rate, which is extremely low. I mean, that's very, very clean. So they are the first group to really put a target on what is non-GMO going to mean.
Okay.
Because prior to this, there have been no standards really in the industry for what's an allowable tolerance level. There is no legal standard out there by the USDA or any other agencies on, what's in contamination level that is going to be allowable.
Right.
And this thing's really in its infancy. It's just getting started. We've been working with some certifying agencies to get some of our material prepped and ready for growers to go into the ground so they can have some non-GMO verified seed that are below those thresholds. But that is really kind of changing the way some of this non-GMO stuff is produced and handled in the country.
And for us, I don't want to put a negative connotation on it, but it's a headache.
It is. It adds a lot of labor. So we're running additional tests that are added expense, and the logistics that go along with it. Can really be a nightmare. Trying to get specific lots of seed all the way through the chain to the right customer creates some unique headaches for sure.
Oh, definitely. And for us as a seed corn producer, we want to be able to give that guy what he needs to be able to make his farm successful and profitable. And but those things come with added layers, and they come with more work, and they come with added money, and they come with headache sounds negative, but they do. They come with more of those kinds of things. Do you see the non-GMO movement hanging in there? I mean, we talked about the organic movement. Do you see the non-GMO movement hanging in there?
I think it will. And like we talked about before, basically it's the same conventional growing system. And we've had growers. I've been here at Master's Choice for 6 years, but since this company was started, most of the growers have been growing non-GMO crops. There just wasn't anybody around to put a label on that and say, hey, this is a non-GMO product when it got to the grocery store.
Right.
So we're just now entering a time where a lot of these companies are beginning to market that. And it's all the buzz right now, but I think it's going to stick around because it works well for the growers. It fits a lot of guys' system. And when we look at 90% of the guys being under a conventional system, so a guy that's using GM traits and under a conventional system, he's probably never going to convert to certified organic.
Right.
That transition is too extreme from the way he knows how to do business. But but to change to a non-GMO crop, that's not a huge transition.
Right.
I've got to think about timeliness of sprays and the way I make a few of my management decisions, but it's not a complete opposite of what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So it presents an opportunity, I think, for a lot of growers to transition into something that is desirable in the marketplace, and I think that's going to create a lot of sustainability.
I think I would agree with you, and I think that it kind of makes sense that way. So, Kevin, I appreciate you coming in, sitting down with me today. I know that as CEO and kind of head of research and development, you wear different hats and you got lots of jobs, and so you're pretty busy. But I appreciate you taking time, coming in, kind of walking through some of this with us. And so, listeners, I appreciate you. Tuning in. Remember always that we are social. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and of course, you can always find us at seedcorn.com. Thanks for joining us today.